All right, guys, welcome back. Today, I want to talk about the event where you can summon a 4-star and kind of talk about the things you might want to consider when you're selecting your 4-star itself. So, there's going to be different considerations for different people in different parts of the game, and this is basically what are the values of different 4-stars. So, I thought we'd talk about it and kind of dig into that question because I've seen some people, asking, and then we'll talk about, what a late game player might want, what an early game player might want, stuff like that. So let's get started. I personally, and I know this is not something that is maybe 100% agreed upon, but I think if you don't have a Galleon, that's worth getting. He's a really good monster for dungeons. That speed lead in Guild Wars is nice. You know what he does. It's the attack buff plus defense break, the bar reduce, and the defense break. I think if you don't have a Galleon, I think it's worth getting. And I think if you don't have a Galleon, you know that and you want to go get it. I think a lot of people who are saying Galleon is not worth getting have one and use it or have moved on or something. So I would say if you're early game and you don't have a Galleon, that's a solid choice. Maybe not the best choice, but it's one that should be in consideration. Similarly, I think if you do not yet have, see if I can pull in a Lucian, you should get a Lucian. They are great. Maybe even more important than a Galleon. What's nice about him is you can use him in Giants, Arena, not Dragons, but Necro later down the line. But, he is usable early game all the way to late game. All his skills are great. His third skill is maybe one of the best in the entire game. So Lucian, if you don't have one, get one. And there's an argument to, if you don't have two, maybe consider getting a second one in this event. I don't know. It's hard to say. So Lucian, right? All right, we're kind of, you notice the theme, we're kind of sticking to dungeon early game monsters in the first couple of selections. So along those lines, you're gonna want a Shana. Shana's so good. What's nice about Shana is she's great in Dragons and Necro and TOA and kind of Arena maybe down the line once you have a couple more options. She needs a little bit more with her to be viable in Arena, but I mean, you've got this crazy first skill that also attacks with the boomerang. The second skill is ridiculous. The AoE stun, but with her passive is also attack break, or defense break, and a bar reduce. So, yeah, so good. And then the nice arena speed lead at 24%. She's not as good if you don't have a boomerang, obviously. And everyone has a light chakram, so you have options around her. But I think she's better than the light chakram by enough that it's worth targeting her and singling her out because she's really, really good. I use her in Siege, in Labyrinth. She gets a lot of use, and I've 6-starred 2 of them because I think she's that good, and I use them both. I use one as a more tanky, speedy one, and I use one in dungeons. So Shane, another good choice there. All right. Along those lines, let's see if I can pick the right one here. I think I can. I just gotta click on the right thing. I think it's this one. The boomerang, Sabrina. You want a boomerang to go with your chakram, and this one's really, really nice. The female warrior receives 35% less damage from enemies with a beneficial effect and inflicts 35 more damage on enemies with no beneficial effects. So that's nice. Attacks the enemy 3 times, decreases defense and attack power, and then the return boomerang. So she hits really hard. She kind of gets some of her utility from Talia, but if you don't have the boomerang to go with your chakram, yeah, and she's the best one for dragons because she gets the extra 15% crit. She's harder for the dragon to kill, so she's really great. Just talking about twins in general, I would say if you're along the lines of looking for twins, I would go Shana, Sabrina, Talia. That's going to be your dragons, necro, dungeony group. And then after that, I don't know that you might maybe go with Maruna, the red one, which is more PvP TOA build. Is that the one? Yeah, look, we can switch right to it. So Maruna's a consideration as well. I think she's pretty nice. So that's another option there. All right, so we talked about, that kind of did the Talia Sabrina thing all in one, so I would go ahead and move on from there. Next, I think, personally, I would probably advise Skogul. There's been a lot of talk about him as a new, kind of like a new hotness. He's in here somewhere. I should be able to see him. There he is. So let's look at him real quick. The first skill is not his calling card, but it's just a bar reduce. Pretty nice. The second skill, Atlas Stone, is what's ridiculous. It's a Lucian on a delay. He throws it up in the air. It's based on max HP. It comes crashing down. It does damage that ignores defense. Maybe not quite as much as Lucian, but it's it's a little more often, like, because if he gets attacked, his cooldown goes down, and he's really tanky when it's up in the air. So he lives to see more turns than Lucian ever can. Like, you can get this Atlas Stone in the air 3 times in a Guild Wars, and that's not uncommon. You won't get 3 amps with Lucian. He just can't. He can't do it. Whereas Skogul, he can survive, and so he's a reliable, tanky kind of a Lucian. And what's neat about him is you can use him to tank incoming fire damage while he's doing Lucian type things, which is really nice. Normally you have to account for Lucian's squishiness by, bringing so much damage that they don't get enough turns or something. Whereas Skogul is a little bit more of a long-term option. He's really, really great. It's debatable whether getting a second one is the way to go in the event. Some people might. They might prioritize double Skogul. There's a lot of good content about triple Skogul out there as just a bruise them over the head with an Atlas Stone type of offense, which is pretty neat. I'd like to be able to do that, but I have to pull 2 more. And this event offers, a unique ability to get some units that I might not otherwise get. Also, to me, I have a better chance of getting a second and third Skogul out of a stone rotation because it's just that one monster I need dupes of versus trying to pick up all these monsters in different rotations. Maybe that's incorrect, but that's kind of how it feels. So Skogul, I would also recommend. Along with Skogul, I think if you've not pulled... Where are you? You're somewhere. Wow, I really can't find it. That's sad. Anyway, the monster I'm trying to talk about is Triana, and I'm sure I'm staring at her, and I am. Just a nice little monster. One of the better free-to-play immunity options, maybe second best. I think probably Fran is a little bit better, but second best. She has a death prevention. This first skill is great. It's a bar reduce plus a sleep. You probably already know that. And then the death prevention is super great. The heal and 1 turn immunity also super great. Plus it's got a little cleanse on it. So I would say Triana is worth having, worth building, worth 6ing. You want her to be in your box, right? So I'd say Triana. After Triana, it's a little interesting. These are monsters I have less experience with, so I'm basically advising them based off of a hunch or what I've heard or what I personally want because I don't have them. But I'm going to talk about them anyway. And then if I'm crazy or wrong, you can let me know. Covenant looks interesting. He's got the defense, ignore defense on his 3rd skill. That's awesome. Anything with ignore defense is nice. But he pairs it with a 100% full buff removal that scales off of the number of buffs removed, which is pretty cool, I think. So I'm heavily tempted to go for Covenant, but we'll talk about that in a second. And then his first ignores damage reduction effects, so that's always kind of nice. He's water, so he's nice for killing fiery type things. So Covenant, I think, is interesting, but he has the same problem that the other unit I want to talk about, Abigail, the cannon girl, has. Let's talk about her real quick. Her first skill is a 3-hit bar reduce. Her second skill is an 8-hit defense break. And then her third skill is a full beneficial removal and a 50% bar reduce on all monsters. So a nice little leader skill for dungeons. So she, to me, is... guess what? I'm your leader in Necro now. This is my job. I do this, I do this, I do that. I'm in charge of Necro. Which is pretty good. Slotting something into Necro with that sort of a leader skill is fantastic. But the issue she and Covenant has is skill ups. When are you going to get 4 and 5 and 3 cannons? It's going to be a while. It's basically going to be an HOH that you have to use 10k points on, and then you only get 1. And I have the wind one, so what do I choose? My borderline useless Nat 5 or, the Queen of Necro? I don't know. She might have uses outside of Necro. I'll believe it when I see it. You always hope for the best. This is pretty neat. I kind of think Despair would be solid on her based on just this. Yeah, because this inflicts damage on all enemies. So I haven't tested it, but it inflicts damage. So that means it hits them. So that means we've got 2 AoEs. In theory, this has 8 chances to proc Despair, unless it only tries on the first of 8. So some interesting options there. But yeah, I think skill ups are the main issue there. I feel like she's probably more usable without skill ups than Covenant. Because Covenant's going to be a PvP type monster, and she's going to be a PvE multi-massive, multi-hitty type monster. So those are the issues with those new monsters in general. The other one I thought was interesting was the Dryad Hearn, which I also don't have. But she has the same problem of skill ups are impossible. But she has Oblivion. It's her and Tessa, and that's it. The Light Desert Queen is not statistically worth talking about as an option. So, if you want Oblivion, you've got 2 choices, and she's one of them. So some tricky choices. A lot of those last ones we talked about are end game, kind of fill in the cracks for, you know, players that may not have pulled them, like me. You know, I haven't pulled them yet, so they're the ones that naturally interest me. Skogul and Skogul 2 are interesting because the skill ups will come faster. They're 3 stars. They'll arrive, and when they hit the stone rotation, everyone's going to summon for 3 stars. It's going to be great. So yeah, so that's kind of my thought on options you have. The event is fantastic. I mean, it just gives everything you would ever want, and the fact to basically pick a 4-star if you can stick to an element is great. So I think, you know, if you need Lucian Skogul, go Wind. If you need Shana and you know it's Shana, go Fire. And then Water provides a lot of different options. You know, you've got all those ones we mentioned. Quite a few different things you could do there. So something to think about. You know, one other thing to mention is, you know, don't summon till the end of event. Get your 500 points a day, and then summon your 1 monster at the end, so that in, you know, maybe you have a pack where you open, you know, Cannon, Skogul, Abigail, and then the choice is clearer to you. So I would say summon at the end when you have full information of what your options are. So I hope that was helpful to y'all, and yeah, I'm curious to see what you guys are picking. I almost convinced myself into Abigail now, so I don't know. Maybe that's the way I go. She's got a lot going on. And the odds of pulling her are not great, so we'll see. Anyway, I will catch y'all in the next video, and take care, everybody.